Hello, WordNerds! Happy Sunday and happy May! It's almost May 4th, so premature May the 4th be with you. Tonight on our live chat, we are going to be talking about character arcs and, candy, because Kelly's just got this, tub of giant key sour candy that I'm just wigging out over right now.
Don't be jealous.
It's
special Canadian sour candy.
super not fair. I don't have any candy, which does not seem right. But tonight we are going to be talking about character arcs, and we will take any questions that you have in the comments below because we have a very loose structure tonight discussing this. So leave us questions below that you need help with on writing and character arcs and character development and all that fun stuff. Maybe we'll start tonight by talking about our favorite character arc that we've read. Mine's Selena.
What about the ones that I hadn't read?
Not the ones that you haven't read. If you've only heard of them, don't talk about that.
Harry Potter. I don't know if I come before Emma, so I just want to skip that.
I like Imogen and Damsel Distressed.
The 6-month anniversary of that just passed too, and she was sharing bonus scenes that I read. I was like, I gotta reread that book again.
I know she did the scene from Grant's perspective, and I
read that too.
Mm-hmm. I didn't read that.
Oh, you gotta read it, making it so good.
I retweeted it a while ago, like a couple
hours ago. I like it. There's just one part in the scene where it's like, I'm afraid that like if she sneezes, I'm just gonna say, "Bless you, I love you." No, let's see.
Cat.
Cat. Yeah, she's good.
I like Katniss. I thought she had an interesting character arc. A couple different ones. That but still my favorite, and I mentioned it in pre-chat, is Selena from Throne of Glass, because can you hear that animal making noise outside my window? Okay, just wanted to be clear, that is not me. That's a frog or something, or a really weird bird. I can't remember what I was saying, so someone else start talking.
Selena's amazing.
Hers is that it's very, like, a lot of times the character's arc is very like this. Mm-hmm. But hers feels like...
Depending on the day, and what happened, and who's done what around her.
But it's building up to something good, I can tell.
Or something
or something terrible. She holds our hearts.
It's going to be, even when it's devastating, it'll be great. But this kind of great. Like the painful great.
You're like, I love it. I love the pain.
That's why I keep reading these books. I like being hurt.
That's why I read the first 3 chapters, but I knew I couldn't get the rest of it for 5 months.
How could you not resist that? Strong will.
I was like, I'm sure this will be a painful experience. I'm going to do it.
No, it'll tide you over until, or not, or it'll just be the biggest mistake you made today.
Yep. Basically.
That's a lot of risk right there.
I'm having trouble thinking of good character arcs.
Earlier today, and by earlier today I mean like an hour ago, 2 hours ago, I wrote a blog post on my blog talking about when I look at character arcs, I find them, at least personally, falling into 2 main categories of choice versus circumstance. So there are character arcs of character growing by choice, like, oh, I realize I've got this flaw that's problematic. Stuff is happening, but I also probably should be less of this to help with stuff of that. You get it? And then you also have a choice, or sorry, technical glitch. You have character arcs brought on by circumstances, so like Katniss in the Hunger Games with everything happening to her. Some of her character arc isn't done by choice. Like, she does not choose to have PTSD. It's kind of that whole killing a bunch of kids things. And then she has PTSD that really changes the way she functions and changes her character and some of her qualities and the way she thinks about stuff. And that was kind of, it's more of a passive versus active arc, if that makes sense. I'm super coherent tonight because I got a lot of sleep over the past couple days. So if wrong words come out of my mouth, it's just forgive me in advance.
Characters.
Oh, I really like Ray Carson's A Girl of Fire and Thorns. The main character throughout the series has an amazing character arc because she starts out like zero self-confidence, like is comparing herself to her sister all the time, feels like everyone expects a ton from her and she's not like meeting those expectations. And by the end, she's like this awesome heroine and queen, and she's like negotiating peace, and she's really great. I love it. That's my favorite thing about that book is her character arc for that series.
Well, something also we should get into tonight, we don't have to do it now, we can save it for later if we want, is that there are different lengths of character arcs. Like there's character arcs per book and then per series. So when we mentioned Selena, for example, earlier, she's got mini arcs in the book. Well, like one mini arc for the book and then mini arcs within the mini arc of the book and then one great overarching arc.
Yeah.
That will extend for the entire series. So Selena in the beginning versus Selena at the very, very end will be very different from Selena at the end of Throne of Glass or Selena at the end of Crown of Midnight or at the end of Heir of Fire. There's that progression of she's getting better and then she slides back. And then she's getting better and she's doing stuff and it's like, uh-oh, this happened.
Yeah. And I think that's really realistic, too, which is why I like it. Because almost no one realizes their mistake, does the hard work, and then never makes that mistake again.
No. Once you make a change, it sticks always forever. It's called a stubborn characterization.
Yeah. Maybe that would work for some characters.
Okay. Harry Potter's like book 5 progression. I know a lot of people hated that about book 5, but that's kind of why I loved book 5, that he had that fall back and like he was kind of miserable.
Yeah, as a teenager I hated 5, but now as an adult I like really like it.
Really?
Yeah. Because I understand now. Like as a teenager I was like, just stop being whiny. Voldemort's killing people.
Bigger issues.
But that's what I think series
15.
like Harry Potter and Throne of Glass, where you have that bigger series to play with, you get to do a lot more with.
Yeah. If you only have like 1 or 2 books in the series, and the majority of the time your character's just like stuck in whining and complaining, it can get really old. But when you have 7 books, you can dedicate 1 book to that.
Especially after a bunch of miserable stuff has happened.
Yeah, like Harry's been so optimistic and always saving the day for like 4 books, and he's finally just kind of like reached his limit in the 5th one.
And it's like totally worth it because at the end you get like the most epic battle that we've had up to that point.
Yeah.
It's like still my husband's favorite part of the whole series.
Really?
Yeah, just when they're going crazy in there.
That book has like slowly made its way up my list of favorite Harry Potter books. Like, yeah, it was my least favorite when it first came out, and it's like every time I reread it, it like moves up.
Just creeps
I
up
wonder
that
if
ladder.
part of it too is because we had to wait so long for it.
I think that's a
We had
big,
to wait
big
2
thing
years
about
for
that.
it.
It's people's expectations were really high for that one.
We've got a comment/question from Kel. She says she wrote the first book in a trilogy back in November of 2014. Since then, she's written the second, and she's currently in the middle of the third. Congratulations!
Yeah!
Oh, you should see her on Write All Year. This girl is writing like
she is writing all
I'm
year.
assuming we were all
Yeah, she's crazy with the word sprint. She's great. So congratulations on all that work. She says with the finish line in sight, she wants to go back and start editing the first one. But her main character has developed a lot since then. So how does she get back into the feel of who he was in the beginning of the character arc instead of giving him the new maturity and wisdom that he has at the end of the series?
See, that's one of my
That's a
biggest
great
issues.
question.
Yeah,
that's
a
really
really
good.
good question. Because I'm unable to turn my internal editor off, so I'll get halfway through the book and I'm like, oh, let me go to the beginning, and all of a sudden, like, I'm still in that same mentality. So yeah, like, the only thing that's worked for me is just taking some time away from the entire series, like the entire story.
Yeah, I think you have to take a break.
Yeah, and then come back with a fresh start.
Yeah, I would recommend for sure taking at least a week or two break before you go, and then when you do get back, read the entire first book without editing anything.
That's
Go
what
through
I
it once
would
and get the feeling. Yeah.
Even like I have very short memory that even I'll forget what I wrote a couple of days ago. So if I go and sit down at a manuscript and have to write a character's voice that I haven't written in a couple days, I have to go back and reread like at least 2 to 3 chapters to remember where I was and then kind of get back into that voice. But rereading what you wrote at the beginning, just the voice that you want to capture, not book 2 when he starts to mature, but just the early version of your character and remembering him at that time or in that stage of his story, I guess. Talking about him like he's a real person, not stage of his life. Get back to there. And I think that kind of helps you.
It's also worth, before you read it though, like actually writing down kind of a map of what you wanted the character arc to be, because just because that's who it was when you did that first draft, now that you have the final version of your character, you might want to go back and tweak a little bit of who they were at the beginning in order for the character arc to make more sense overall. So kind of go into it with an idea of what it is you want.
There's a tip for that. I actually read it over the weekend. A weird for duckying a situation. Coders use it when they're writing code for websites or programs. They have a rubber duck, literally a rubber duck, that they sit on their desk and they have to explain the code to the rubber duck. And explaining it out loud to someone, the rubber duck, it helps them figure out the problem in their code. So if you have a rubber duck, sit them down, talk to him about book 1 and the plot of book 1, and if you hear like, oh, this is where he is at book 1, and kind of talking through it with your rubber duck.
Yeah. Having people who can talk back to you can also help too.
Sometimes, but they talk a lot, so.
Yeah, but I have this unspoken agreement, or like in writing group or something, where it's like if you're describing the plot, you just kind of talk it out, and then at the end, they ask questions like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Maybe you should look at that. This doesn't make sense. Maybe you should look at that. And it's awesome.
Probably better suggestions than the duck.
No, the duck is awesome too, though, because you can't talk to people all the time.
The duck gives terrible advice. He's just there looking at you being like, you messed up. What are you gonna do? You figure it out and you get mad at the duck. You're like, you could have told me. And the duck's like,
it's like I could have.
For yourself.
Oh my gosh. The duck. Good question, though.
That's a really good question.
I'm about to be like diving back into a character that I finished writing a year ago. So that was really relevant for me.
But Kel's actually in a very nice spot that most writers don't get to be, where you have an entire series in front of you before, like, most of the time, book 1 is out by the time you're writing book 3.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely.
You can change things if you need to change things. Yeah.
Very advantageous. I think, who wrote Anna Incarnate? Jody Meadows. She had her full series written before she queried, I think. And then she just queried the first one and then, like, crazy rewrote the rest. But I don't think I have the patience for that.
No, I don't think so either.
Oops. More comments. This one. You can ask any questions about character arcs or any writing character-related questions in general. Yeah, we'll take them all. We'll talk about anything. It's open night. Do you have a question from Tina B? What character progression do you prefer? Bad to good or good to bad?
That was one of the questions I was actually going to bring up later. I am a sucker for happily ever after, but with me writing in a character arc that doesn't necessarily end very well, I'm looking for those books where it's definitely gone downhill.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because
I like reading happily ever after stories where, like, bad guy gets redeemed. I'm like, yeah, you do that. You be happy and a good person. But also, like, writing good to bad is so much fun.
Like, this is the first time I've ever done it, and I'm like, I think I found my thing. Like, why did I do that a long time ago?
Yeah. And I love the messy in between, where it's like they could like one choice could end up making or breaking, or like the series of choices they make throughout the book up until the climax, it could go either way.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you see them like go bad.
Yeah, I like kind of like good that dips into bad and then has to go back to good. Like Selena in Crown of Midnight. I really like the character. Not like about halfway through the book, she goes crazy.
Yeah.
And she could very easily go very dark at that point.
Yeah, that's true. Because, see, okay, for Selena, I want her to be happy. I don't want her to be sad and bad, and I want her to be happy. But when she goes dark, I'm also like, oh, this is so much fun. It's like, I guess overall, yeah, I do like a happy ending. Maybe good to bad to good again, like Emma said.
But it's not even necessarily just looking at main characters, that side characters.
Yeah. We also have to remember the bad guy thinks that they're in the right position. So what if, like, I think it's a lot of fun to write characters who are seen as the bad guy by everybody else, but if you kind of change perspective, it's like, oh, maybe...
I kind of got that with Divergent. Who was it? Irene? Maybe? I can't remember who it was, but, like, it was one of those things where I think it was Biolesian. Like, she honestly thought she was doing something that was going to benefit everybody. So on her side, it was like, I can see where she's coming from, but then on the other side, we're like, you are evil, like, with a capital E.
Okay, question. Do you think it's realistic if something is blocking a certain character's development? For example, like 2 books. If not, how can I make it wait?
I feel like you skipped a line.
Yeah.
Do you think it's realistic if something is blocking a certain character's development for, like, 2 books? I didn't read the commas correctly. I apologize. If not, how can I make it a bit more realistic? So, like, if something's blocking development for a significant amount of time without progression. I think there has to be enough other stuff to warrant that and not be like...
Because the character, like you were kind of saying, has to have some sort of development in each book along with the whole series. So if it's 2 whole books of them being stuck in the exact same place as a character, that could get really boring.
Like, maybe if you're looking at, like, one overall character element that's blocked for a while, but they still have to change in other ways. So, like, if you're looking at going from bystander to hero, that can be blocked for a while, but there still has to be some other response to everything that's going on.
Because usually your character's major flaw is made up of a bunch of other tiny flaws. And so if you make sure that they're fighting those tiny flaws along the way so that it isn't, like Emma said, the exact same character for 2 whole books, then you're going to be fine.
Great comment from Jordan. So that's the function of a rubber duck. Yes! That's the function of a rubber duck. Explain the code to.
See, when stuff like that happens, I'm like, why didn't I think of that Harry Potter joke? Like, come together.
You could have, Kaylin. You could have, but you missed it.
My brain's not let us down.
Psychology.
I was like, we're all forgiving each other because it is Sunday, and I think everybody's had a long week.
Yeah, I revised for 15 straight hours yesterday.
Look at you go. How?
My brain just exploded on your behalf.
I don't know how to write anymore. I just...
No, it's done.
This is it. This is my
I
last
managed
word.
to write 2,000 words yesterday, and I was happy with that. It took me like 2.5 hours. I was up till like 2 a.m., but it was worth it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's cool. I love it.
I've been reading all weekend. I can't even complain. I just want to read books all the time.
I've read so much this week because I'm trying to get caught up.
Yeah, I've been like
You know what
watching
you should do,
Goodreads. What the heck?
Yeah, Emma and Kelly, you've been reading so much, you should just, like, record yourselves reading so we can all listen to
With the
also
live
reading.
feed going, you can tune in anytime.
That's amazing. I would use
I actually
that.
got approved for a lot more Neck Ella than I thought I would have gotten approved for, so I'm really excited to dive into at least 5 books. So cannot wait for the 17th because I'm just going to start reading everything.
Yeah.
One day I'll get back to reading time.
Yeah. I got approved for Delicate Monsters by Stephanie Keene, which I love her. Her character in Charm and Strange has an amazing arc. And so I'm super excited to read that one.
This question's from Kel. Her main character has PTSD and panic attacks. Ugh, your poor character. Do you have any advice for writing PTSD or panic attacks? What it does to the character, ways he could get over it, just PTSD and panic attack stuff in general? Want to make it realistic. Panic attacks are terrible.
They're awful, awful, awful.
Like, let's not forget that the first time Iron Man had a panic attack, he thought he was dying.
Yep.
And that's Tony Stark. And it's like, you've been through a lot of stuff. If you think you're dying.
That's how every panic attack is. It doesn't matter how many you've had. It's like, I'm dying this time for real.
Nope,
There's
this
no
time I'm
going
dying.
back.
Goodbye. Farewell, my friends. I've written a will on a post-it note. You will understand it hopefully one day.
I have a lot of generalized anxiety. I can't say that I've ever had like a full-fledged attack, but one thing that is really helping me actually with my character now is my psychology course that I'm taking now. It's abnormal psychology, so we're learning about like the whole 9 yards. So it may be like super boring and actually kind of expensive depending on what book you want to read, but my textbook like goes in depth with all of the symptoms and everything, and it's just like really opening, you know, my eyes to like all the different aspects.
Definitely. There are also on YouTube, there are a lot of people who do YouTube videos talking about their anxiety, like Zoella, who's a YouTuber, like a couple years back, she did a really good one, a very long video about her particular brand of anxiety. And anxiety in particular, I'll talk about that because I know about that, and I don't know enough about PTSD to explain how to write that yet. But you know, anxiety is particular. Anxiety is particular to each person, so it'll be slightly different. So you don't have to stick exactly to this one account. You can kind of make it their own, but generally speaking, panic attacks, which are so lovely, you don't even understand how great they are. You definitely feel like you're dying. Your heartbeat will get really hot sometimes, or really fast. You'll feel both sometimes hot and cold at the same time. You might shake. You might feel nauseous. You will basically feel like you're in fight or flight mode, which is what your body kicks into because it senses a threat, even if there's nothing there, and it's like, run or you'll die! But there's nothing to run from. So
for me, I hyperventilate, like hardcore. Like, I cannot get enough air, and that is going to be my death. And it's not fun because if you get in too much air, you pass out.
Yeah. You get dizzy. Sometimes you start, like, for me, I'll get really still, and then I'll start to, like, shake and convulse and be like, uh-oh, here comes the storm. And, like, I had a friend text me, and she's like, hey, I think I'm having a panic attack. I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm shaking like crazy. My heart's doing crazy things. I'm like, oh, welcome to the terrible club. Here's what you do. Water, ice pack, lay down, distract yourself. So
breathing exercises can help too if you're a hyperventilator.
If you're a hyperventilator, yes. It will be important to know how to breathe and not pass out because that is not going to help the situation at all.
Yeah. I put a link in the comments on I think it's like 10 or 11 parts, a series on traumatizing your characters. And there's a big section on PTSD, and it is amazing. So I highly recommend
what
that.
It's called traumatizing.
Yeah, and it's written like by a psychologist. She's studied psychology and stuff, so she knows like all the technicalities behind what's going on and stuff.
That's awesome.
So it's good.
But yeah, you can definitely find a lot of resources online. Like Kaylin said, there are textbooks like crazy everywhere about psychology and online resources. Like I think the National Institute of Mental Health has articles on anxiety and panic attacks and PTSD, YouTube videos, blog posts from people who suffer it. If you have friends who have anxiety.
Yeah, I think you're going to learn from the textbooks, but you're going to learn the cut and dry, black and white of the actual illness. I think searching up the blog posts in addition to that would really give you a well-rounded view of what it's actually like.
Yeah. Because a blog post might say, these are the symptoms, and then a friend might be like, oh, when I get it, the best thing I do is drink ice-cold water because then I can start to, like, calm down and breathe better. Or, like, I have, what are they called? They're, like, C-bands, like ones that you'd wear on a boat if you get sickness. And I'm like, I keep those with me everywhere because if I have a panic attack and start feeling sick, if I start feeling sick, I get more anxious. So stop that with the C-bands. You'll get like weird details like that textbooks won't be like, most people use C-bands to stay
Right, yeah.
anxiety
and
sickness.
something else important to consider when you're writing these things, especially if it's a contemporary novel, is that there's probably a psychologist and or a psychiatrist involved that's helping with the anxiety and the PTSD and any other side effects. So you'll want to make sure you do your research, understand medications that they might be on, because if it's really bad, they probably need medication. So do your research hardcore.
And side effects for medications, those are good.
Yeah, those are fun.
No, they're treat. But that will add like that level of realness to it if if it's something significant for your character, which if you're mentioning it should be.
Yeah.
Oh, anxiety. You're such so much fun. Wealth of information here, though. So. How would you like, or this is from Megan, not this Megan, but Megan in the comments. Megan, get out of the comments.
Megan, be shy. You can ask
it out loud. You can ask it out loud. You know, it's fine.
I'm like raising my hand.
Megan with no H. She asks, how would you write it if there's a character that everybody thinks has completed their development in the first book, so they leave the books, but then come back in the fourth book with all their development gone? So basically a character who's grown, disappears for a while, goes off, and then comes back and is like, I'm a mess again. How?
I think it depends on how it's done.
Yeah.
Like, if they completely disappear and we see nothing about them, when they come back, it's going to be like, oh, what's wrong now? But, like, if they actually, like, show up throughout the series, even if it's just in little pieces, to where we can piece together their art, it would be a lot better. Because I actually like that, like, the rise and fall. So, like, in the beginning, even if they're messed up, they get help, and then there's a such thing as falling down again. And I like seeing that kind of roller coaster ride.
I don't even think you'd need the, like, seeing them in between, but there has to be some justification for where things are.
Reason.
In my head, I've switched this to, like, TV seasons that, like, character leaves at the end of season 1, everything's great, and then they come back in season 4 and their life is just a mess. I'd want to know why their life is a mess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also not sure I get the whole, like, their development is completed in book 1. People are never finished. Then.
Nope. Not even when they die.
There needs to be some sort of reason if they've like completely fallen exactly back to where they were, or else it kind of feels like sloppy writing. If it's just like, oh, we needed conflict again, so this person's a mess again, you know? Because I've seen that done before too, where it just feels like it was like lazy and they just needed wanted
drama
to
for
drama
sake of
again.
drama.
Yeah.
Something that I really like is seeing like a character be so confident that they're like over their problems, and then when they do disappear, oftentimes in books, I guess, when they do end up coming back, they haven't just like fallen back to where they were. They've gone way past and are way worse, and I like that a lot. Definitely.
Yeah,
The
I would
backslide.
better than being just like they were here in book 1 and got to here, and now they're here again in book 4, like that. And they go to here again, like that.
Yeah, I think in these things you have to keep in mind that this is a story, and whatever's happened to these characters need to serve your story. It's not like real life things just happen to people, and sometimes there's no reason. But it's hard to get away with that in a book. That everything has to go like you. If it's not actually part of the story, it doesn't need to be there. It's just this is what happened to happen.
In the case of your character leaving, like perhaps they got to where they were, they progressed and grew as a character to where they were because of the characters around them. Then they left that support group, that community that they knew and were familiar with. Usually when you leave a community or group of friends that you're comfortable with and you're like, yeah, I'm awesome, you might have a tendency to backslide, and that's a really realistic thing that you could show of they were taken out of that environment for whatever reason, by choice, by circumstance. And then they come back to it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, stuff has happened. Let me." But like, also give a reason. It can't just be like, "Well, he's back in a mess. Moving on." Like, we want to know at least like a line or two of it, like, "This is what happened."
Yeah,
Unless
my
it's something
biggest
that doesn't need
concern.
explaining.
Yeah, my biggest concern with that is I think you said like they disappear at the end of book 1 and don't come back until book 4. And so I definitely agree with Kaylin, though, that there needs to be some mention of them, or it's going to feel like, oh, this character's back and is exactly the same.
Like, yeah, they don't even have to be there as long as someone mentions them in where they are. And we have to have, like, a defined reason of why they aren't around anymore. It can't just be, oh, they're not here anymore. Like, we need to, like, a defined reason of why we're not
for convenience,
Also,
Definitely.
in TV shows, that like you're best friends forever, and then the actor moves on, and the characters never talk about that person ever again.
Right, yeah.
No, they are dead to me. Dead to the show, dead to me. This one's from Pyro War. When the clouds of plot open up and there's space to convey a proper range of character emotions, how does one lift their character up like a rising roller coaster? Give them something to be happy about. Just for a page. Sarah J. Maas.
I love to see characters' development by making them happy first and then taking all their happiness away.
Oh, Sarah J. Maas, always. It's those like bright spots. Like when I look, I think the reason why I like Throne of Glass is because I keep waiting for her to be happy, but also like I want to see her backslide. Like I don't want her to, but it's interesting to read. So she'll get like really happy, and she goes to the ball and she dances with Kyle, and I'm like, oh my god. Stop! And then everything comes crashing down, and I'm like, why? She had like 2 pages to be thrilled. But
And then you have all of Air Fire.
then I'm like, I'm gonna keep reading until you guys are happy again. Just know that I'm gonna keep turning the pages until everybody's okay.
If they're ever okay.
If they're ever okay. Or they're all dead. It's gonna be one or the other. Who knows at this point?
Yeah, I think that is really important to like have them have happy moments, because if they're just always in like the awfulness, then I think that can get like really hard to read if you have no hope and like no happy moments to see.
And if there's no happy moments, then why are they fighting through the hard things? Like why aren't they just saying, oh, it's just easier to leave this rebellion and just kind of
Because he's so good looking.
Yeah.
He's a dick, but gosh, his face is great. We have a comment that says someone's recently been starting reading the Harry Potter books, and what she noticed, or what they, I don't know if it's a she, what they have noticed about the books is that how characters get turned around. So 1 minute someone's really bad and evil, and then they're good. Like Sirius Black, all of book 3, you're like, he's escaped from Azkaban, he's this crazy killer, and I was like, no, he's fine. He's just not great at explaining with his words that he's not trying to kill your friend, but the rat. This often leads to interesting and vivid characters, since no one's truly good or bad, but can you also go too far with adding depth to your character? For example, Snape's story in the last book movie caused a lot of commotion. Did it really make his character more interesting, or was it a bit over the top? And is it possible to go over the top with this? How can you start it on Snape?
I don't think that Snape's story was over the top. I think people's reaction to his story was over the top.
Yes.
It was like because of its story, people were like, he's an awesome person. And I was like, no,
he's still a terrible
racist.
Yeah, it definitely made him a very interesting character, I think. But because he wasn't good or bad.
Yeah.
But,
and I think those are the best characters to read.
Yeah.
When
and
you're
for
not
Snape,
sure.
understanding that backstory was critical to understanding why he was such a big player in the plot.
Yeah.
Because
It wasn't
his
slow.
decisions don't make any sense unless you know that he was in love with Lily.
Because he's like giving Harry a hard time in class all the time and then saving his life outside of class, and you never understand it.
Yeah, it being part of the overall plot is where it's important. Like, where I think it goes overboard is, like, it's great if you know all of your characters' backstories. But if Rowling had given us Professor Flitwick's epic Snape-level story, and, you know, everybody got that, like, that's when it gets a little too much of, like, it's great that they have a history, you should know that history, and you can work it into how they speak and how they... But we as readers don't need to know every detail about every character.
At least not in the main novel.
Like, actually,
Bonus
McGonagall has a
content.
really interesting backstory. Like, it's on Pottermore and everything. She has
Yeah.
this, like, tragic love
Hers is
story and, like, different
secret.
things. But it was not important to the book at all. So it's not.
Oh, it's not
And see,
there.
that's why you can write that stuff, but because you might feel that, like, you might be compelled to write it. But do not put it in the plot of your book if it doesn't make sense. Save it for bonus content and extra scenes that you can share later. Like, hold on to that. for when it's necessary and significant. You don't want to waste it on something someone's going to be like, ugh, look at all this exposition we didn't need.
Yeah. And adding
that
to
complaint.
like the Snape stuff not being over the top, we didn't like get his entire backstory in like one like massive chunk. It was like it was split up over books, and then when you did get like the big plot twist, it was also like it wasn't for no good reason. It was because he needed to tell Harry what he had to do. That was just all part of it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we've got a question asking for our help/advice from I Am Making.
We are chock full of that.
Don't know if it's good advice, but we've got it.
We're working on. We'll give you all our advice.
We got thoughts.
We'll tell you what to do with your life.
Little like warning symbol below it is "We are not qualified to give advice." Caution. Proceed with extreme caution. Anyway, he said he's been working on his new manuscript for a little bit, and he's realized while he's writing it that his character's gay. And his parents have an issue with that lifestyle choice. And even though this is a fictional character,
life or the character's
parents in real life, his I Am Geek's parents do not like that lifestyle choice. And even though this is a fictional character in a fictional world, he's worried that his parents will see it and become upset at him. So he needs advice.
Write it anyway.
My parents. I lecture my parents about things like this until they come to my side. I'm like, I will forever fight you on things that I believe in and that you don't. But
it's harder when you're younger. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll
Especially with the whole getting in trouble. Right now, I can't really.
I mean,
what are you gonna do? Ground me?
I know that that's a big, it's a hot topic. You know, everybody when it comes to sexual orientation and stuff like that. But to me, it's no difference in violence. Like if they don't condone violence and your character wields a sword, obviously they're going to start stabbing people with a sword.
Yeah.
So it's like just ignore the fact of what people are going to think about you writing those characters and just write them anyway.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to be like hardcore putting this out in the world yet. Like it's probably a good idea to write the book and think about it and revise it a lot before you end up putting it out in the world.
Right.
And who knows, at that point, your parents may not be as hardcore about it, or if they are, you'll be able to more rationally talk about it. Yeah.
Do you think they're going to be reading your work without your permission and going to find out on their own?
I think that's the
if
issue.
possible, I'd be honest with them. Like, I don't want to give anyone advice, just write it anyway, and their parents find our video and they're all like, bad.
It's we are corrupting everybody.
The asterisk about us.
Yeah, like
please.
But my thing, all right, and so if you're writing the story and you're learning that your character is gay as you're writing it, that to me tells me it's not going to be a big plot point of the story, which is also very important. Like that shouldn't be all that your story is about. So if that's a subplot, your parents might be a little bit more accepting of the fact that that's not like you're not shouting it from the rooftops. It just so happens to be your character's lifestyle.
Yeah. And it's all about writing. Like you're writing what you believe in. It's not like you're writing anything explicitly graphic or anything. I'm assuming this is a middle grade or young adult book, so you're fine on like content, if that makes sense. But I mean, my mom is the worst when it comes to being accepting of just a lot of things, but specifically speaking of gay relationships, she does not condone or believe in, is very negative about it, and I've written a couple of books with very obviously gay characters who aren't like, oh well, they seem like they might be in love with someone of the same gender. No, this is a lesbian angel, and that is a gay mechanic who is in love with his son. So write what you believe in. You don't have to hit them in the face with it. Like if they find it if you share a family computer, for example, and they find it, try to have an open discussion. But if you can't come to terms on that, some things parents and children can differ on opinions. It's not like breaking the law to have this opinion conflict with theirs. And if you feel uncomfortable writing it on the computer, write it in notebooks. much as possible, try to be open about it and honest with it, but I know there are situations where that's difficult to do, in which case, do your best.
Yeah, I love the part you said at the end about like being honest about it as much as you can. There was a time when I thought that both my parents were not, like, would be very, very against reading anything like that written by me, and so I had like called my mom because I knew that like there were going to be short stories in the anthology coming out and stuff, to like ask her like, hey, this is going to be in here, just so you know. If you want, I will tell you where it is and you don't have to read it, but this is going to be in there, and this is going to be in some of my other books, so if you don't want to read it, let me know, and I'll tell you which ones not to read. I have a really good relationship with my parents, and I was kind of surprised, but she was like, oh, I don't even care. So sometimes it turns out better than you think.
As long as the fictional characters are happy, I'm happy. Well, then you're going to be sad for a little bit, but then you'll get happy again.
Yeah.
So most parents would rather you be open with them about something than hide it and still do it and then have them find out later.
Yeah. Yep.
I got in the most trouble when I was keeping secrets.
Yeah.
I had a comment
But I do not envy. I will say.
We've got a comment that says, in the book I'm writing now, I'm worried that my characters are being too passive, as all/most of the major decision or development happens out of circumstance rather than them actively changing out of their own will. For example, one of my protagonists' magic turns dark, as his soul does, due to what he's put through during the first book of the series. How can you pull this off without the characters seeming like everything is happening to them all the time? One of their flaws can be that they're too passive. I mean, that can be one of their flaws. It's one of my characters' flaws, is they're all like, things happen around me, and I watch.
But at the same time, it's also like things happen around you, but things happen to you. Yeah. That can change your mentality, definitely.
Yeah. And it's also all about how you react to the things that happen to you. I mean, a lot of things happen to Katniss. Like, she does volunteer, but she, ends up in the Hunger Games twice because, her sister got chosen. And it's all about the things that she chooses to do once she's in the Hunger Games. The way she handles the situation.
Yeah, you do have to have a moment where your character, like, they have to react at some point. It can't all just be, like, it can't just be a character flaw that they don't do anything. Your readers are following this character, and they need to influence the story. Yeah. So even if that is going to be part of what's happening, there does still need to be something going on that is deliberate, based from your character.
A choice. They have to make a choice at some point,
And I would argue that at least a first choice has to happen at the beginning with your inciting incident.
Yeah, like Harry Potter choosing to go to Hogwarts. He grabbed that envelope. The one that was flying, and not any of the ones around him on the ground that would have been much easier to catch. He makes his own special choice.
Or even just choosing Ron instead of shaking Draco's hand. And, he made choices right away. It doesn't have to be the big choices right off the bat. Every decision doesn't have to be world-shattering. It's just your character is interacting with the world around it.
Yeah.
And think about how different Harry Potter would have been if he chose Draco.
That would be interesting.
I like to think about that.
Many people do.
I will say, from like an interning at an agency perspective, if like something like that happens where the magic turns dark, it's going to have to be done really, really well, or your character is going to have some like deep-rooted dark thoughts that like drive it. Like, the climax of your book can't just be like, this thing happens and now the character has to be different. Your character has to be doing things.
Yeah.
Question from Tina. Was there a time where you didn't want a character to develop, but they did? No. Yes, probably.
I can't think of anyone.
I know that I had a sub-character in my Alien White book that was just supposed to be like a character in the background, but then I started thinking about them too much, and they definitely became a prominent character. Like, they became one of the main group. So they're not a main character, but they're mentioned and interacted with a lot. That has happened to me once.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times when you're reading like characters who go from good to bad, that's when you're like, no, stop, you're making all the wrong decisions. So, but I also love it. I'm like, no, stop, no, wait, keep going.
Keep going. But stop, but keep going. You're doing great, but terrible. Just terrible. You do you. I think, like, for me, most of the time that development, like, will happen in plotting rather than writing. Like, if I'm thinking about characters and trying to figure out who's going to do what, and then I accidentally have this one character, like Kaylin said, that wasn't meant to be a big front runner, suddenly starts doing stuff, I'm like, hey, keep it down back there. Let's calm down. Like, you can do your thing quietly. But this is, I think it's more of that instead of like developing accidentally. Because usually when I go into writing, I have a very good idea of where my character starts and where they end. At least that.
My character was definitely like the class clown kind of character, and I just had too much fun writing his scenes, so I'm like, you need to be in this a little bit more.
Do you guys all plot character arcs, or does your characters develop through, like, I don't think I plot character arcs. They just kind of...
My character arc plots are more like a sentence, or like an idea of like, this is how they're going to start. They'll be here at the end.
Yeah.
It's more
and I
just
only do that for my main character. Like, I only really one character gets that big arc, and then everyone else just kind of builds as I write.
I'll do it for like 2 or 3 characters. For like the Ignite series, I had 3 character arcs very clearly planned, and I knew where they were going to start and I knew where they were going to end, both like morally and physically in the world. So like I knew like this person was going to start like this, and then it was going to get like all over here, and then this is where I can't talk about it without spoiling stuff, but do you know what I mean? Like I knew the beginning and the end very clearly, and the middle stuff like could spike and then fall, but the ends were like solid.
Yeah.
I'm not great at plotting. I don't like plotting big time, but that I will. My start and end points.
Yeah, I do the same. I have the start and the end, and then in revisions I go back through and see like, is this smooth? Do I need to fix it more? How can I make this make more sense?
Yeah, I think character arc is best done in revisions.
When you know the character.
First draft, you're looking at the trees, not the forest, and so it's like really impossible to get it perfect that time.
Even when you're
anywhere close to perfect the first time. The first time it's like, this is what the character's doing. I don't know. I
don't know what I'm doing. Am I writing? Am I literate?
Because it's like your own life. Like in your day-to-day decisions, you don't like realize how you're changing, but then you look back over the years and you're like, oh wow, look at who I was 5 years ago and who I am now. Your book's the same thing. You have to wait till you get to the end and then look at it and be like, what did I want to have happen to them again?
It's definitely something that like I'll have that idea in mind, but then I'm like, oh, you gotta clean this up, clean. But if you know basically what you want and try, write the story and then go back and refine it.
Yeah.
Solid. Okay.
Thanks for all your questions, guys.
Yeah.
Because we had no idea what we were going to talk about.
We're just
characters.
Wing it.
If any of you have any ideas for what we should talk about in future weeks, because since you're all in a chatty headspace tonight, we are totally on board for ideas. So
we'll take suggestions in the comments. This question's from Kel. She feels that she should kill her main character's girlfriend, who's also kind of the main girl character. But the main character would hate her for doing it. Well, he doesn't have to know.
You don't know.
And I don't know and she doesn't know if she wants to. So how does she know if she should kill her?
Try writing it, and try writing where she survives, and see which one you like.
Write it a few times. Decide if it's necessary.
Yeah, decide if it's necessary, and think about the outcome of both scenarios. So, like, if you do kill her off, how is the story going to progress after that?
Because it will drastically affect his choices.
Yeah.
We also have... I don't remember if the main character was a boy or girl.
I think she said
main character's a boy, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
We also have a few WordNerd videos about killing off characters. One is a full chat that we had. I know I did a video about the do's and don'ts of character death after I read Allegiant.
Yeah, there's hardcore Allegiant.
Because I felt like I wanted to.
Don't watch any of our videos about character death unless you've read Allegiant. or don't care about it.
Yeah.
But like there's some good advice that we talk like a lot about advice about how to do that. So
I say it's definitely okay to write it with her dying and write it with her not dying and figure out. You can write multiple versions.
Or even plot it
Yeah.
with both if you
This
don't
is
want
not
to
the
commit to
published
writing
version,
both.
so.
Like,
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
does her death affect the overall story? Figure it out.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
That's
if
what I'm
it
more inclined to
doesn't affect the overall story like hardcore, then something needs to get revised.
Yeah. Yeah.
More questions. What are some ways to get rid of your antagonist at the end of the story other than killing him?
Letting him win.
Having him become the good guy? I mean, like, you're just saying getting rid of your antagonist. So,
Or the
Crazy.
antagonistic force of it. I mean, if you have, I always think in fantasy, because that's mostly what I read and write, but if, like, the antagonist has some sort of special power, they could lose that power. That's an option. Like, if they have no
some kind of-
power to be an antagonist anymore, then that gets rid of
Yeah,
I'd like to
whatever
see
that
more
power is.
antagonists go on trial for their crimes. For the most part, they're just executed.
Yeah. That's cold blood.
Well, because
No justice for the antagonist.
trials are terrible. Especially if it's anything like the American court system. Then
We
it's
don't have
like-
to, like, the trial doesn't have to be part of the story. That could just be, like, what happens after. That, like, we know
You're
they're
being
awaiting trial.
Yeah.
Off topic, I just put links in the description to the do's and don'ts of character death and the killing your characters live chat in the comments. So
Megan is on tonight.
I'm hardcore on.
I think the reason people kill their characters, like their antagonists, so often is because it's so much more satisfying than imagining them just sitting in jail.
Yeah.
Because you know what? If the character's not dead, I don't believe that they're not going to cause a problem later. You know?
Even when they're dead, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like at the end of like a superhero movie and the bad guy's in jail and he's like, I will get my revenge.
You know,
and then he
there's a
breaks
sequel.
out and you're like, oh God.
That's true.
Yeah, it's hard to put like a pin in it and make
Yeah.
it very final.
Yeah.
I like what Emma suggested about losing power, because that could be like literally like magic power, or it can be like status power, where you're not in the position because you don't have tons of money, or you don't hold whatever title you did before, or you've been ostracized, or exiled, or put on an ice cap and just pushed out to sea.
Yeah, it really depends on how
in Parks and Rec.
Just like that.
like how open-ended do you want the ending of your series to be? Should there be some room for readers to like wonder what happens next, or do you want to be very clear-cut? So,
Yeah, that's
a lot of
also
it's up to
a
you.
question. It definitely depends on if you, because leaving it open doesn't mean like you're gonna write more. It just means like not everything's tidy and clean when things finish. So deciding if
Like
you
real
want
life.
definitely clear cut. Did you say like Aladdin?
I said like real life.
Oh,
Aladdin's pretty
like,
quick.
like Aladdin.
Well, not really, because there were 2 sequels to Aladdin.
That's true.
The first is about
We don't-
the lamp.
Emma,
in
we
the
don't
first
talk
movie.
about
Not
those.
that.
We don't talk about those sequels.
I like the Aladdin sequels.
Yeah, out of all the
I like
Disney
the
sequels, Aladdin
Disney
was
one.
was pretty good.
I like
Oh,
the
yes, you
TV
guys.
show.
Speaking of Aladdin, getting kind of off topic, but I got approved. Disney is like publishing like a series of like twisted
Yes.
fairy tales, and I got approved for the Aladdin one because it's the first one. It's called A Whole New World. It's basically like if Jafar had gotten the lamp instead of Aladdin getting it, how it would have changed the story.
No.
And like and like Jasmine is like living in exile, leading a rebellion and stuff. I'm so excited to read it. I haven't read it yet.
Yes.
Yes, it comes out in like October, I think.
I'm very excited about this.
And they're doing like a whole series of what if books where it like
I would
takes
read
what happens
these
in the movie
forever.
and twists it.
Yeah, this is gonna be a problem.
Especially because it's like
Ooh.
Disney, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's like what if for the Disney versions, which are the versions I love
Yeah.
more than the dark and twisty originals.
Yeah.
Yes. What if the Disney version?
Ooh,
I'm so excited.
I'm partial. I like
exciting
both.
because
I'll let you guys
I
know how
like
it
when
is.
Disney gets dark and twisty.
Mhm.
Well, that's going to take up a lot of time in fall. Maybe we'll do some. We'll do some for
Yes.
book club. 'Cause we're going to read them.
Yeah, that's
I'll let you guys know how the first one is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that will decide a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. We got a bunch of comments. Someone said they rubber ducked the other day. They drawn from real life how you break yourself out of despair and show the cracks. So is there an open space as a host for the WordNerds? We are a solid group here, but we encourage everybody to start talking about books and writing on YouTube, especially writing, because I don't think the WriteTube is big enough yet.
Not nearly big
Pretty
enough.
solid. There's always room for more in BookTube, because I'll look at anybody talking about books and suggestions. But WriteTube, we encourage other people to start.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of cool people, I guess. They're okay.
As it is, there are 6 WordNerds and 6 video days.
Yeah.
Check
And then Sunday chat.
Unless you want the live chats to go away.
No!
Of course. I kidnap you or something. To make sure it does
Social
not.
interaction for every week. It's like this in my writing group.
That was social.
I could have like the worst week ever, and then Sundays it's like I wake up and it's like it's Sunday.
Found a live chat. Question from Kel about what's the difference between plot driving character and character driving plot? Is there a better one between the two?
Yes, I have
Character
strong feelings about this.
Go for it, Megan. Go for it with your strong feelings.
Yeah, if the plot drives your character, I don't know of a publishing house that will publish your book. Your character has to be strong enough to make all the choices themselves, rather than to be pushed into things that don't make sense for their character to do.
Yes.
Sorry, just drinking some Gatorade over here.
It's like my brain's going fuzzy, but no, yeah, like as you were saying that, I was thinking of Percy Jackson, and it's like, yeah, he was kind of like pushed into something, but by the end, he was making his own decisions, like he was progressing the plot. I don't know why I thought of Percy Jackson out of everything.
Why not?
It's true.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning, it's like, yeah, he finds out who he is, and his, mom gets sort of killed, and all these things just keep happening to him. And that's kind of what happens in a story. You'll notice that at the beginning, it's a lot of your character just reacting to things, like things are happening, the inciting incident happens, they're reacting, and then as the story goes on, they should start acting more than reacting.
But even those reactions are
They're
actions.
still making decisions.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, I have an example of this. In Damsel Distressed, if you've read that, Imogen is very, very, very self-conscious. And by the end of the book, she's still self-conscious, but she's like growing and getting better, and she ends up being in a school play. It would not make sense for her to try out for the school play at the very beginning of the book, because her character just wouldn't do that. And so that would be plot-driving character if Kelsey Mackey was just like, I want her to be in the school play and have that get her out of her shell. Like, she wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's a great example, Megan. I wouldn't have thought of that example. That's a good example. Look at you and your examples. Oh my gosh. I'm so impressed.
Apparently revising for 15 hours straight gives you superpowers.
Yeah.
All right, we've got we got a lot of questions. Thank you guys so much for the questions. Real quick, Rose said LGBT books as a suggestion. We are doing a summer of LGBT books starting this May.
It's a summer of diverse
It's a summer of diverse.
But right now we have 2 LGBT and we haven't picked the third one.
Yeah, there are LGBT books in there, but we will also talk about that.
Yes.
We got that covered.
Yeah.
Patrick Cress Anthology, if anybody's heard of that, it sounds okay. I mean, like, maybe. We'll see. Who knows? We've got a comment that says, in the book I'm working on right now, one of my characters turns out to be the bad guys at the end. How soon should I start hinting at this, or should I hint at it at all? How subtle should I keep this? Okay, I've got, like Megan, I've got strong opinions about this. I believe that you should start dropping hints, but keep them subtle. Know that to you they are going to be more obvious because you know, like when I'm writing twists, I'm like, oh my god, people are going to know before I get there. Yeah. They might, like if they're really smart. You do want to leave clues so that they have a chance at figuring it out, or when they go and reread it, they're like, how didn't I see this the whole time? Oh my god, look at this, this, and this. But like when I'm writing it, I'm like, I'm being way too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, no, I'm not. Nobody knows my secret. So have other people read it, and then you'll know the level of hints you're dropping at. Like,
There
is it good?
there has to be something throughout the book that you can look back on after you finish and be like, oh wow, like I see it now. It can't just be like.
Otherwise, it comes out of left
nowhere.
field, and you're like, smack.
I think,
like, what?
And that's true with all surprises, you know, like there should be something that you can look back and be like, oh dang it, why didn't I notice? I feel stupid.
She was a werewolf all along.
I want to see that progression though. I don't want just something to happen at the end and be like, boom, you're back. Like, oh, it was you the whole time. Like, I want to see the progression because I'm actually dealing with a character arc like that right now myself. And I'm pretty sure that it's just before the midpoint is when we really start to see my main character turn for the worse. But it's not very, like, heavy-handed yet.
It definitely depends on if it's your main character or if it's like a side character that's like.
It depends on. Because Kaylin's example is a character that's going bad throughout the book. This is a character that's been bad the whole time and you didn't know it because they were hiding.
Oh, okay.
So.
It's more of like I'm secret, like
the
bad guy. I'm the Iago to your Othello, and I'm the jerk over here making lies, and you're like, you're my best friend, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm your best friend. We're best friends. I'm not a bad guy at all. We get along great.
Because of our Aladdin conversation, Iago went
I was like the
I was like, yeah.
Maybe. That bird's got some dark juices, you know?
Yeah. One of my favorite hints I ever put in a book that I'm really proud of, so I'm going to tell you about right now. I had written a character. I won't say which character, just in case, because hopefully a lot of the books that I've been writing lately will end up in print soon. But I wrote a character who turns out to be a killer, and that character is very obsessed with like the numbers of people that they've killed, and that character is always talking about the number of people that they've killed. And you don't realize till the end that like the deaths that have been happening have also been by this character. And so in their like number obsession, the day after, or a couple days after one of the characters dies, or one of the extra characters dies, this character changes the number on accident.
Megan, can you just write all these books and publish them now? Because I really want to read all of them.
Yeah, and it's just like a little typo.
Like, I'm going to hit you in the face. I want to hit you in the face so I can read these books.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that sounds like something that I need to read, like,
like yesterday.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of secrets in some books coming up, and I've talked to Kelly about all of them, so she knows all of my secrets. But I want having her know the secrets. As she goes into revisions, I'm like, am I doing a good job? Is it?
Yeah.
Do you know?
That's super helpful to have like someone read it who knows the twist and someone read it who doesn't know the twist.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I have going.
Yeah.
Kelly knows and she knows.
I think it's useful in a situation where you're trying to hide something from the readers is give them a false lead, like give them something else to focus on, so they ignore that character and they're like focused on the other character that they think is bad or that is, you know, that's actually something Shannon Hale had a post once about like how to like keep secrets and surprise your readers with things without making them feel confused, like having mystery and some confusion. And she talked about like give them like a false answer for it, like have your main character be like, oh, I think this is what's going on, but it's not actually what's going on.
Yeah, sleight of hand is very very good.
It happens constantly in Harry Potter. You always think like, oh, it's the whole first book. You think it's Snape, and so you're focused on Snape, so you ignore Quirrell the whole time.
Yeah, you're focused on Snape, so you don't realize that Hermione runs into Quirrell and knocks him over.
Yeah.
Brandon George is throwing snowballs at the back of his head. Great. Another question: how do you write 22 characters evenly? First, that's too many.
Yeah.
Being that all 22 are main characters in the same book. It's too many.
That's too many.
That's like
too many. Quarter it.
Thrones levels of epicness. That takes a lot of time. I mean, this guy took 10 years between books. Like,
and it also, I don't think he even had
that many.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
I
reading
don't
a Game
think
of
it's
Thrones right
something-
now, and he has, like, 6 main characters, I think.
Yeah. I think like there's definitely a cap of how many main characters you should try to keep within for young adult books. Like adult books, when it's high fantasy, you can get away with more of that like expanding. But for young adult, 22 characters and all of their
22
arcs being
main
explored.
Main characters.
22
Like,
main
if you think about it,
characters.
like in Hunger Games, Katniss goes into the Hunger Games, and there's a lot of kids in there, but you learn a little bit about them, but there is really only her and Peeta that are the main stars of the book.
Yeah.
We don't need to
Or
know
like the
every
Maze
character
Runner.
arc of the other people.
The Maze Runner, there are a bunch of characters, but you're not focusing on every single character in the book.
Harry Potter, there's a whole school of kids.
Yeah. And all of them know Harry Potter.
Yeah,
But he
and it's
doesn't
like you
know
have
all
your
of them.
We
primary
do.
characters. You have like Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and then you have like some secondary, like some of the kids in their year, Draco, like the other Weasley, and then you have like your tertiary, like
Think of it when
random
like,
kids at
but
school.
even that, even all of those characters, we learn them over 7 books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of time too.
You can have like a
You have
couple
to think of
characters
it
who have
as,
a
like-
character arc for each book, and then some characters that maybe have one character arc going on the whole time, like but not
Yeah.
22 main arcs.
Yeah. That's not to say that you shouldn't, like, know your secondary characters well enough to know exactly what they would do to drive the plot, but to try and show an intense character growth for 22 is...
It
For
would be way
like
too
a young
much
adult book,
for a
that's like a
reader and a
chapter per
writer.
character.
Yeah,
One
that's
chapter
why.
per character.
I think the best way I think about it is like if you imagine what like cartoonists draw, like for The Simpsons, if they show a crowd in the Simpsons episode, you'll see like the Simpson family detailed, and then you'll see like 1 or 2 faces behind them, and then it's just like heads.
Yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, like it's not detailed. Like you get the detail of your main characters, you get some pretty good detail of the characters that are around them that they know, like Flanders and Moe and like Mr. Burns and those kind of characters. But then beyond that, we don't need to know everybody who lives in Springfield. And
We're
all.
aware that they're there, but we don't need to actually know them.
My boyfriend knows everybody who lives in Springfield. It is just ridiculous.
Well, we are not all Matt.
We're not all that skilled.
But I think handling 22 characters arcs as both a writer and a reader would be way too much to deal with.
And then it's like, how long are those books? Because if each character only got like 1 chapter dedicated to them, that's still 22 chapters of setup for each character.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
And
even taking
nobody
it back
likes
to
that.
like TV shows again. Like Grey's Anatomy has, even then, still not 22 main characters, but a lot of main characters who have arcs throughout the a season. But like one book is more like one episode than it is like one season.
Yeah.
Like you cannot have a character arc for all everybody who works at that hospital.
And
in one
another thing with
episode.
Grey's Anatomy is characters come and go. They die. And then more are brought in to be like, don't worry. There are others.
So yeah, well, like,
still
I'm
more
like thinking
doctors.
about with TV shows Lost, like when they first crashed, I think there's around like 24-ish survivors or something. But you really have like a couple of really main survivors, and you have like the rest of the group that's
47.
fairly important. 47, yeah. Yeah, you have like it's some big number. You have like a few that are really important, like Kate and Jack and Sawyer, and then you have like some that like get an episode dedicated to them, and then you have like some of the random ones that are there and they interact with the characters and they have their story, but they don't maybe
It's
get
just
an episode.
Rose and Bernard. Like, there's not a lot of that third level of, like...
Well, they tried it with, who was it? It was like Nikki and Paolo. And
Yeah.
Everybody did that
the
episode.
viewers hated them so much that they killed them. Like, they weren't supposed to die. They were supposed to become bigger characters.
Yeah.
People hated it so much.
Well,
We
and
don't
eventually,
like
as the
these
show went
people.
on, they killed off a lot of the survivors to just focus on the main ones because it was too much even for a TV show.
Yeah. Now, we did do a full live chat about handling a large cast of characters, so you can also look in our archives for that. I'm sure that was at least an hour chat, probably 2-ish. Let's see. Have any of you started off really disliking your antagonists and ended up really loving them? I love all of my antagonists. I love them. The bad guys I hold closest to my heart. Might not be a good thing. Saying it out loud, but
I've had main characters that I didn't like, that I ended up loving. But I usually love
That you wrote?
from the start. Yeah, that I wrote. I was like,
Yeah, but I'm gonna
not
write for
doing
you.
this. I don't like you right now. Stop it.
I think it's important to like your antagonist, because then like if you can sympathize with them, you can write it really well. You know, because you don't want a bad guy who's just like classic stereotype, oh, I'm twirling my mustache or tied up on a railroad track for no reason. You want to like be like, oh, this makes sense to you because of how you think and the stuff I know about you. And I understand where you're coming from. I wish you wouldn't, but I understand where you're coming from.
Or at the very least, you want a villain that people can love to hate, like Umbridge. I just love hating her. I feel no sympathy towards her. But I love to hate her.
Ugh.
I put a link to maintaining a large cast of characters in the comments.
Oh, stop.
Megan is on top of it.
We have enough views now that I can just Google like YA WordNerds maintaining a large cast, and it comes up. So it's really easy.
Megan should revise for 15 hours every Saturday in preparation.
Yeah. Well, I got new medicine and like I'm just handling things. I can do anything right now.
This question's from Kel about how can she handle, she has a character with PTSD and anxiety, how can she write them without making it seem whiny, is remember that a lot of people who have anxiety and PTSD in real life, they grit their teeth and they do what they need to do throughout the day. So writing that at times, I mean, like, that can be important. Just to cover that.
I think as long as you portray it well, like, it's an illness. It's not whiny. Yeah. It's like your brain.
Like, oh, I'm
not
just
working
really
normally.
sleepy and lazy today. I just don't like being not anxious today. I'm just gonna be anxious.
Yeah.
Keeping it internal will go a long way. If like they're not complaining to other characters about what's going on, they're just kind of battling through it every day, like they have to. And you don't need to bring it up in every scene or anything, like just because it's a everyday thing. But when it's prevalent, go into it.
Also know that like a lot of people, like the character might keep it secret because it's part of their anxiety. Like when I get anxiety attacks, I don't tell anybody around me because I'm like, don't want to bother you, don't want to inconvenience you.
Yeah, I just get it. I just like go outside.
Or I'll just like get really still and quiet and be like, nobody will notice me. Just
I'm just over here quietly dying.
I'm just gonna lay on the ground for an hour. See you later. Geek asked about what book Emma was talking about, but I don't. This question
was it the Whole New World one? It was probably A Whole New World.
Okay,
the
Whole
Aladdin
New World.
one.
That was the Twisted Aladdin one.
Yeah. Comes out like October or something. Like
I just went in and requested it. I can't wait. I need it.
Yeah.
Is that on NetGalley or the Eloise?
Yeah. NetGalley.
Whisper NetGalley. Tamara says she's got her channel is about talking about writing on YouTube, and she has a problem finding others. Yeah, it's a problem. We need more WriteTube.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Suggestions and what we're working on.
Yeah, like Erica said, I love watching videos about people reading books, but I really like seeing the different parts of the process that people are in, and like
you should watch
people's writing process.
Kelly has a series. It's called Building a Book. It's
I like how she's sitting
She
there,
has
like
the
not mentioning anything.
intro I've ever seen.
Yes, Kelly's intro is awesome.
I watched her intro like 30 times.
I was like mesmerized by it.
Do it again. Kelly, you should just make a video of that on a loop for 30 minutes.
Oh,
I could never watch it ever again.
You wouldn't have to watch it. It's from Megan. It'll be called Megan and Emma's video. Just for them.
Yes. The thing about
there are
is
some
that,
like 10-hour loops.
Yes.
Like Spooky Scary Skeleton. That's what I put on all of October. A 10-hour mix of it on a loop. And everybody within hearing distance of me is like, I'm going to murder you if you don't turn that off.
The thing about RightTube is that it's a lot of work, and so I think you see a lot of people come into the RightTube community and then leave really quickly because we're writers and we're really busy. So just know going in that it's going to take several hours a week to do.
Yeah.
But
Like,
it's
spend some time to do it, definitely. Script your videos, shoot it, edit it, like spend actual time doing it.
Tomorrow I'm posting an exercise video, a writer's exercise video that I'm really excited about.
You wear cheesy 80s outfits.
Dorky writing exercises.
I'm excited.
You have to wear 80s workout clothes for it. That's
Yeah,
the only way to
please.
do it.
Well, I don't have a
Obviously.
leotard. I don't have a leotard.
You didn't
but-
keep real
You gotta
gymnastics.
work it.
What was I thinking?
Gosh, I'm sure they still fit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Get it together. If you lived closer, I'd let you borrow my Work It Out Barbie tape. Yes, a VHS tape.
Yes.
Of Barbie. If that doesn't.
I wonder if that's voiced by Kelly Sheridan.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I have to. I'm gonna check. I'll find it tonight and check. I'll let you know. I just got way too excited. I should see that tape again. It's exhausting. It's for children, but it's exhausting.
And you're gonna want that out for the move, you know. Like, you don't want to lose that. You need
I
it.
do. I need it.
Like,
on
keep
my
it in your
bookshelf.
purse during the move.
Yeah. It's gonna be in the like things that I need access to immediately once I move
Yeah.
in box. Not the like, oh, you can unpack it later. It's the important, fragile.
Medicine, cell phone, Barbie workout tape.
Yeah. Those are the top three, almost in order. It's really like Barbie workout tape and the rest, but priorities are great. Comment from where'd it go? Whoa. Pyro War said or asked, would writing a companion novel or novella and including it with an underworded novel be better than puffing it out and corrupting pace? Know that a word count for your book doesn't have to be crazy high. If it doesn't have to be crazy high. You don't have to hit, like, it's, once you're over 50,000, you're definitely in novel territory. So don't expand, like you said, puffing it out and corrupting pace. Don't do that just for sake of getting a huge book. But I also wouldn't include a novella inside the book. You can publish that on its own. Coming from a marketing standpoint, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because you can make two sources of income.
If
From the
there
business side of
is,
things.
like when you do have a very short book, it's important to go through and make sure there isn't something missing. Like maybe you need to add a subplot or something, but sometimes books are just short. The story doesn't take as long to tell.
Yeah. We Were Liars is what, like 220 pages? It's way short.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And still crazy good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It did not need to be any longer.
No.
My heart couldn't have handled it.
I have about 10 people in my main group of characters right now, and I think it's getting a bit crowded. I have a really hard time including everyone, but I've picked up a lot of people along the way. How do you include everyone without making it seem forced? Is it necessary to include everyone, or can I skim over the less important ones? Skim!
And remember that
Just wait.
though you have like 10 big characters,
Mhm.
they're all going to be together all the time.
Yeah.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's 6 word nerds, but I see different word nerds at different times. Like I see Emma more often than any of the word nerds in person, and then I see Kelly and Aaron on Wednesdays with my writing group, and then I see, well, I haven't seen everyone in a long time.
Yeah. We're the background characters of Megan's life. We understand our place. We understand our place.
Oh no!
We settle.
This went so wrong so quickly.
It's okay, Erica. You're
No,
basically
but it's
like
like
the main
same-
character of my life. It's all good.
No, but it's like the same for Kelly. Kelly talks to Erica much more than the rest of us because they're business partners and they do things together.
No, I'm her favorite.
She just likes Erica more than the rest of us.
Yeah. She's told me in several emails. I'll have to screenshot them and send them.
She's made a list. She's ranked us, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Megan,
Oh,
who
yeah.
takes 15 hours of revising is a favor to me. She's my favorite.
Yes! That's all I wanted. My mom will
Wow.
like pick favorite children
Wow.
for certain days. Like if we do something good, she'll be like, "You're my favorite child today." Or if it's really good, we'll be like her favorite child for a week.
Yeah.
Wow. Do the other children just stop trying for the rest of that? Or like, I do an effort next
I'm
week.
out.
Yeah,
and
they
have a
just
chance.
stopped trying. It worked better when we were younger and we cared more. Like, I will be the favorite.
Wait, isn't next Sunday Mother's Day? Is that going to affect anything?
Probably on this end,
I
yeah.
don't believe in mothers.
My favorite. I don't believe in them either, Megan. Prove it.
I'll be around if people want to judge it. Although I do have a mother and a lovely mother-in-law.
Who are real? We
He
believe
just
in
doesn't believe in her.
I like how deadpanned it was. It was perfect.
Solid.
I'm surprised Erica hasn't shown her graph thing to everybody else.
Erin isn't here, or I would have shown her too. Have you guys in the comments? Have you seen this 9-second video? And it's a Nickelback parody based on the like, look at this photograph, but they take off the photo and it's just look at this graph, and then you see his face. And that's it. It's so good. It's so heated because it's so funny. Take it easy, crowd. We're fine. We're about to wrap it up.
We're very quickly devolving.
Because we're losing it.
I did want to see the comment. The Pine Lord said, finally made it to a live show and it only took a few months. Welcome to our live show. We hope you're getting into
We're sorry.
as we are.
We would say they're not normally like this, but they are.
Look at this graph.
And then it like zooms in on his face.
Yes, it just seems
And then she's just like, did you see it? Did you see the graph? I'm sorry. Okay.
We have more questions.
James says he's learning so much about different styles of characters, so thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad you're learning something.
I'm glad you're getting something out of this conversation. It's all we can ask for. Emma's crying.
Yeah, I cried a lot.
Yeah.
And then just had a comment from Zelda Girl who said, going on what was said earlier about being anxious when a character is just sitting in jail and be like, are they going to come back? Criminal Minds had some of the best character arcs that she's ever seen, with one of their characters who was abused by an authority figure and was arrested many years later, but when he was in jail, sitting in jail, everyone was worried that he was going to get out and go and hurt the character, and then it was resolved and relieved. And that was our last question. So I think since we've been going for an hour and a half almost, I think we're going to wrap it up, unless anyone has any final things to say about character arcs. No? Arc your character. Oh, look at that arc. Look how it spans 1 book, and then 2 books, and then 3 books. Wow, much change. Such progress.
Oh wait, I see a question.
Oh, where?
Did we already read this question? How do you keep your story going when your main character gets really beaten down and depressed and just wants to give up? By Cal.
There's something to fight for.
Emma just slam dunked it. She's like, done.
I'm done.
Question answered.
I feel like,
Mic drop.
okay, I could bring that
Mic
back
drop.
to Harry Potter book 5. Because, like, he's all depressed and beaten down in the Dumbledore's army.
Yeah, exactly.
Give him something to fight it for. Emma just slammed it. She was
Yeah.
I wish we could
out of here.
That was
She's
like
gonna walk
plan
away.
that better and then just end.
Or you just get up and walk away, like, fight for. Boom.
And then we all come back to attach our
coming
headphones.
back?
No, Emma's done. You gotta leave on a high note. That being said, check out the Look at This Graph video if you haven't seen it already. It's 9 seconds. Just literally Google Look at This Graph. It'll pop up. You're welcome.
It'll make Erica very happy.
Please tell me
Yes.
it's funny. I think it really is. So thank you, on that note, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight to our video chat is, oh my god, wake up, to our live chat about creating strong character arcs. It is a video, technically. It just made it me sound really old when our video chat. Video chat on our computers. We hope you learned something, or we hope we helped answer your questions. leave some comments below if you have suggestions for future Sunday live chat topics that we can discuss, that you want to hear us talk about and that you'll have questions for. And next week, we might be here depending on people's Mother's Day schedules. So
I'll put a thing at the end of my video tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll let you know. But until then, we hope you guys have a great, great week and read and write many awesome things. Until next Sunday, possibly. We love you, WordNerds. Goodbye.
Bye!
Look at this graph.